Welcome back, everyone. Toyshiz here, and I am back yet again to give you guys another fresh look, courtesy of my friends over at Super 7, and today we're going to be checking out the entirety of their brand new wave of TMNT Ultimates, Wave 5, and this is quite an awesome wave. Just going to tell you, the character selection is right up my alley. You have one of my favorites, Leatherhead, the swamp stomping, raging Cajun gator. You have Krang, the evil brain from Dimension X, and of course they call him the bodiless burbling brain. That's pretty cool. Filet, another one of my favorites, Archie Comics, everything, Mutanimals, the fist fighting fish, and of course one of my all-time favorite iterations of the Ninja Turtles, the Sewer Samurai Leonardo, the Samurai Battle Commander. This is gonna be fun. I'm telling you right now, this is 4 great characters. Gonna match them up with the old Playmates one, see what differs, yada yada. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a nice hot cup of coffee. This is a look at the brand new TMNT Ultimates Wave 5 by Super 7. And while I got all you raging Cajun gators here, I just want to say thanks so much for always checking out my YouTube videos. If you haven't already, please do consider subscribing. Old toys, new toys, daily news updates. Plus, if you like what you see in this video, I'll put Entertainment Earth links down in the description below. And thanks for using my links. They'll help the channel to grow. So let's jump right into it. First figure up, we have the Sewer Samurai Leonardo. And this one, back in the day, way back in the day, I remember we were visiting, the family was visiting other family, and my dad goes, let's get out of here, right? And we went, did some errands here and there, took me to Toys R Us, and bought me Sewer Samurai Leonardo. He just thought it was cool. I just thought it was really cool. I love this figure, and I still have it. You'll see it later in this video. As far as the updated version, you do get a bevy of hands, as per Super 7, right? They're all painted nicely. They have like a black band around each of the hands, so they are different from previous turtle hands. You get a really cool Sewer Samurai little bamboo post that fits in the back of the samurai's belt, right? This comes off easy peasy, like a little pillow, right? Little cloth goods, and you got the 2 bamboo stuck together, wrapped. It's painted nicely for the paint that's there, and this simply just hooks on just like that. Simple, you get it, and it goes right into the back of Sewer Samurai Leo. So I definitely like that. It's different. I totally dig that. Then you have basically just a sword and a scabbard, and you've got this piece of string. It is a flexible string, so you can sling it over his arm or his back, and then you have the sword that goes in there. Now, the sword is painted nicely. It's got some nice silver, green, and black to it, but of course, it came like this, all kind of warped in the packaging. I'm hoping that if you leave it in the scabbard, you get the idea. He also comes with a shorter version of that sword. You get the shield, which is all decked out in paint. Nice gold, red, green, a little bit of blue. And he simply just holds it just like that. Just like basically the old Playmates version. And then it comes with 3 of those throwing stars, for lack of a better word. It's the ones that Scorpion uses, like the digging garden trowel blade kind of throwy thing. Anyways, you also get 2 throwing stars, nice and thick. Those look good. And you get these things. You call them like the Wolverine blades. It's like those devices you can crawl up a building, right? I'm sure some of you out there know exactly what I'm talking about. And he looks good. He's doing the whole Wolverine stance right there. Or you can use them to kind of carve up some carnitas, right? They have those, no joke. Then you get a really cool slice of pizza. This is a nice touch right here. I really dig this. And they put a little silver sardine or fish on top. It's a different slice of pizza. I like that. It goes well with any type of Ninja Turtle. And you get this really cool alternate head. Now, before, when I've looked at Super 7 figures, my gripe has always been, I wish that they would do a little bit more to update the figures. Do the original Playmates, sure, but then bring something new to the table. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Great paint every which way. The mask looks fantastic. I will tell you this, though. You're going to have to heat up either the ball joint or the head to slip it on. It's a very tight fit when swapping out from the regular head to this more mask Shogun head. But dang, that's awesome. And then you get the tree, the weapons tree, who I've talked about a million times. You can leave these out. It does nothing for me. Put another weapon, something like that. But I'm happy to say that another big improvement for this wave is the paint. The paint, especially on this Sewer Samurai Leonardo, is gorgeous. It's eye-popping. It looks great. He's got peg holes on the bottom of his sandals. You got the L right there for Leonardo, right? You can put 2 blades. He's got a nice amount of weapon storage to him. Like I said on the back, you can slip in the bamboo signage right there. This turtle shell has got all kinds of ornate decoration, just as his gauntlets, the front of his shell. Everything is very, very cool. Plus, of course, you could put his katanas right there. And these are 2 longer, normal Leonardo katanas. Same green, same black, nice silver blade to them. And he does hold them well. For the most part, you can position him like he's pulling it out, ready to do battle, something to that extent. But you know how basically the Super 7 TMNT articulation goes, right? We'll go over it in just a second. But again, just in looking at this figure, from going from the old Playmates, seeing all the detail that they included, and then now bringing it into 2022, it also lets you see a little bit more to the prior figure, right? You get a little bit more like, oh, okay. Now, in terms of the articulation, you get plenty in the head. You can get a little bobbly-wobbly with them. The arms will go up and down, right? Nothing that you really need to heat up on these guys. In fact, it's going to be kind of the opposite. Unfortunately, he's got single jointed elbows. They'll spin at the elbows. The wrists are going to be kind of loose in some instances. But unfortunately, the big problem with this figure is going to be the legs. He has single jointed knees. They look great. You get him all kinds of Ninja Turtle poses. And the feet rock and go up and down. So those are nice, but it's the legs. The legs are very, very loose, unfortunately. And not so much where you would say the hip is. It's more along the lines of this will rock to and fro, and then that causes the legs to kind of flip out. So that's the main problem with this guy. And when you start putting all the weapons and everything else, and he starts holding the shield, he starts to become incredibly off balance. That's the problem with this figure. Other than that, like I said, the paint, the weapons, everything looks good, but his hip joint right here is so loose. It's like you've had the figure for 20 years. You know what I mean? Next up is, of course, one of my faves, Filet. Now, I got a sweet story for you. When I was a little kid, went to my grandmother's house, and back in the day, the Filet, I guess, was a hard character to find. Couldn't find him anywhere as a kid. So I go to my grandmother's house, and she goes, kiddo, I got a bunch of errands I need you to do for me all around the house. I keep helping her out, yada, yada. She tells me, okay, go upstairs in my bathroom. I want you to grab me this. And I go up there, and sitting right on the countertop is a brand new Filet. So I always think about my grandmother whenever I see Filet, especially my old Playmates one. But this brand spanking new 2022 version does come with the weapons tree. This one I actually like. I'll give it to him all day. You got that crazy scarfish right there. It's got some kelp and stuff hanging off the rope. I like that. It's a little extra touch. Yeah, it's cool. Scarfish. It's funny going from just flat plastic to now seeing him in color with his weirdo nutsack for a chin. I'm sorry. But you see it now. He's got the Thanos thing going on. But he's great. He's painted well. I'll give it to him all day. You get this really cool extra head portrait of Filet. I like what they did here. They made him more monstrous, and I totally dig that because it does remind me of Archie comics in a way, right? Some of the covers, he's getting all mad and upset. Maybe because they killed Bubba Glub Glub, right? That was heartbreaking. Speaking of Bubba Glub Glub, well, this is not really him. This is Fish Sticks. And I got to tell you, again, seeing in flat orange plastic and then going, is Fish Sticks a suicide bomber? I didn't really put 2 and 2 together, but apparently so. But he's got a lot of paint on him for being just basically a slug of a figure. He does have some really cool head articulation in the sense that he moves in that. So at least they gave him something to do. But when you have him with Scarfish and Filet, and he just looks awesome. I got to give it to him all day. But again, it's traumatizing. Even now, I'm like, oh my God. He's blowing people up, right? And then this is one of the accessories where I'm like, I see what you did here. I don't mind it, but I don't really love it. You got this big piece of rope. It's tied to an anchor. Nice silver anchor. I get it. Filet swinging around, causing destruction. Yeah, it totally works. Is it as effective as it could have been? It's just okay. But I do like his really cool updated Man Ray spear gun, right? That's pretty cool. It's got some orange and some black. However, I will tell you this, as I've said before in other videos for the TMNT Ultimates, this one has more paint going on. he does hold it. He has a trigger finger, right? That actually holds the trigger, so they've worked on that. They've improved upon that. Let's say Bebop and Rocksteady, some things right there. But I would have loved if the spear tip, along with the spear that you can clearly see in there, was more of a silver or just a different color instead of just black and orange. You know what I mean? The extra hands work really well. You've got fisted hands, item holding hands, weapon holding hands. They all work. They really give some personality to Filet, and I really do like the blue that they've chosen for him as well, because this figure is pretty well done. Very few qualms with this guy. I got to give it to him all day, and I'm happy to say that this one doesn't really suffer the loose leg syndrome. I like the bottom of his fins. He's got peg holes, and it's got some nice texturing right there. That's pretty cool. His fins are great. It's got the green. Great blue, again, like I said on this guy. Nice shading within that blue, just kind of brings him more to life. He's got his wetsuit. Now, the wetsuit is nice. I just don't think, let's say, the front to the shoulder piece really match up all too well. I like they put a zipper on that part, though. He's got his classic watch. I always like the watch on that original Filet. The back, pretty much exactly how Playmates did it, but this time around, it's a really heavy piece of plastic. It works, though, and the tail is articulated, finally, right? I always like the tail, but the fact that this is articulated now, that's pretty darn cool. The head articulation is great. You get a lot of movement around him. I think that the head really works in bringing this character to life, and I still like messing with his little double horn things. The arms, they'll go up and down. He's got single jointed elbows, the spin at the elbow. The wrists are nice, but they're a little bit loose. I think that's the main problem with this wave, is everything's a little bit loose. Kind of sort of with this more diapery, rubbery piece, kind of like how McFarlane does it, although right here, I wish it was just a little bit more snug. That way you couldn't pull it down to see, you know what I mean, the plastic pieces underneath. That's unfortunate. The legs will kick out. He's got single jointed knees. He will spin at the knee, which is great as well, and he'll rock at the fins. But as soon as you kind of start messing with it, it's not as loose as, say, Sewer Samurai Leo. It's just a little loose. And again, because he's kind of back heavy with these giant heavy fins on the back, it kind of throws him off in balance once in a while. Just FYI. Next up is Krang. 2 Krangs. You get 2 Krangs for the price of 1 Krang, basically. But you got some cool Krang expressions going on. This guy, again, I distinctly remember where I picked up the original Playmates Krang. It was at Kmart, and we got home, and he was missing pieces. He was missing the arms, took them back, exchanged them, got a new Krang. It was a whole situation. But, of course, you got that big old plunger gun again. Nice silver, nice blues, nice reds. You got like a bit of a metallic blue, purple on the end. Nice. Brings it to life. Gives a little bit more depth to it from the original Playmates version. And, again, that's what I like to see. What's funny to me is having these arms now in this silver, I totally went, these are Terminator arms. Never thought that with the Playmates in the original. But nice reds. Again, he's got that metallic blue, purple paint to it. And you got a whole lot more articulation than just a flat plastic piece, right? You got a little rock right there in the wrists and then the forearm. And I mean, it's cool, but unfortunately, some of the hands, the wrists are loose. Not all the hands are loose. I'll give it to you. The finger point hand, that's totally fine. But yeah, some of them are loose, and it's just like, no more loose stuff. Then, of course, if you've got the gun and you've got the arms, well, then you need that long wire to attach. It's not a bendy wire, and I'll show you, it kind of gets cumbersome here and there. Then you've got his little stand seat. You've seen it in the cartoon. It was in the old Game Boy games. It's cool. So if you're using one Krang, you can situate another Krang on his little stool. That's pretty cool. You get various hands. They're all painted nicely. I like the silver that they used on this. I kind of wish they did this with Metalhead, you know what I mean? But at least I can safely say, yes, they've got some cool silver paint going. And then, of course, you have the Bubble Walker. It really came out great. From the metallic paint to all the different elements of paint. You got the big dome. I really wish didn't just close. I wish it was kind of ratcheted, right? You could kind of keep it open, keep it, you know what I mean? Like in that middle position, that would have been kind of cool. It just closes exactly like the old one. But you got all the wiring, and you've got the legs, and you got silver paints, and it really did come out looking good. It's a nice, faithful recreation, but souped up version of the original Playmates. You can see right here, that's what the arms will plug in to the sides. The back has tons of paint on it. That's very cool. The wiring, all the gizmos, everything comes to life. And then, of course, you've got the legs right here. This is going to be the figure, I'm going to be honest with you, suffers the most from loose leg syndrome. It's pretty much the Metalhead version for this wave, unfortunately, because if you just had it just as this, there's not much weight to it, right? The legs are that loose, unfortunately. Not so much in the feet, and for lack of a better term, not so much in the thighs, right, of the thing, but it consistently falls forward, and I'll show you exactly, because the legs are very loose. They're too loose to support the weight of Krang and the hands and the gun and everything else. And speaking of Krang, what a happy little guy we got right here, right? He's got some great paint mixed in with that chewing gum pink that he has going on. Nice yellow eyes. He looks nuts. The back of him, you see a little mini brain butt going on. In so many ways, but gone is the hole underneath. Remember that from the original Playmates? And he does have some articulation. It looks like he's been working out. Like, oh, the Krang gym is over there. You know, that's a terrible impression, but you get the idea. At least you do get some articulation out of him, and he's solidly painted, much like this guy right here. Now, this guy, he's just having a blast being evil. This is when he's just tearing stuff up, going to town on New York. The turtles are just failing left and right. Same thing, like I said, if this had a hole, or the other one had a hole, that would have been cool to stick on top of the Shredder, right? Just like the old Archie comics when he basically glued himself to Shredder's head and took over his body. That would have been a nice little Easter egg right there. I'm just saying. But you see the differences. You see the similarities. They're pretty much the exact same figure, just different hands, different expression, yada, yada. But I like they included two. Now back to this bubble walker, right? I'm going to show you how to do this, and I'm going to show you the props firsthand. So you want to go ahead and install the arms. The arms go in just like that. They're fine. Nothing loose on those as far as when you want to install them on the sides of the bubble walker. But then I will tell you this. Be careful when putting the arms in. The seated part just feels a little flimsy, right? Just go easy on it because you don't want to push too hard. Just saying. And then you take the gun, you put it in the hand. He doesn't quite hold the trigger if that red thing is a trigger, but you get the idea. And you put the hose on the gun and in the bubble walker, and you have Krang and his robo suit. And it looks good. But see, as soon as you start to move it, because of the weight of the arms and the gun and the hose and everything else, it throws the whole thing off balance. Now, I'll show you right now. It's something that you can deal with. You can work with it. You see, it works in some instances, but then as soon as you want to... See what I mean? As soon as you want to get this going, it becomes frustrating. When you find that sweet spot, yeah, he'll stay, but for the price and everything, it should not be this loose. This is the kind of looseness that you would experience if you had a figure that you've had for years and years and years. You don't want this type of looseness right out the box. So unfortunately, I'm going to tell you, because, I mean, it could just be mine. I'm just telling you. But this would be the one to either wait, maybe for clearance. He's an awesome looking figure, but the looseness really detracts from the fun of this guy, and you find yourself being more frustrated than going, oh yeah, that's a sweet looking Krang. You get my drift here, but once you do get him situated, again, I'll reiterate, he's a lot of fun. The paint is great. The fact you get two Krangs, everything else works and looks fantastic. It's the old one brought to life. I love the finger pointing hand. That's amazing. And the fact that this head portrait right here, a brain portrait, just looks like he's having a ball, going nuts. I like the little chair for the alternate Krang, right? If you wanted to go that route. So there's a lot of great things, but unfortunately, the loose legs really detract from this guy. Which then finally brings us to Leatherhead. I saved the best for last. Even when looking at the box this guy comes in, it's a big box, right? I'm like, oh, that's a Muckman-sized box right there. That's pretty cool. Jess Harley, if you're going off the Archie comics, or he's just a mutated animal at this point, I think, with this version of Leatherhead. There's many different versions of Leatherhead throughout TMNT universe, but yeah, you can do what you want. Yeah, call it what you want. And he comes with extra hands, of course. They're all done nicely. Got a nice little black wash to him. Brings out the scales. Really dig those. Weapon holding fist. You got the idea. I absolutely love, this is one of my favorite accessories. I really love to fish, so this was right up my alley. He's got everything going. Now, I'll tell you right now, the paint is great, but if they could have somehow included an actual fishing line, that would have just been top notch. I'm kind of bummed that they didn't do that. But he holds it well. It looks good. Maybe I could just tie something on the end of it, right? I don't know. It's really cool, but at the same time, I'm like, I wish it had a fishing line. He does come with a trap, a gator trap, or a bear trap, or just a trap, right? This thing is going on. Some kind of Ninja Turtle leg is going to step on it wrong. Probably Donatello, right? Donatello and Leatherhead, they go together well. Again, Archie Comics references. But I like that it's hinged. It's cool. It looks good. So well done there. And then you get the tree, the weapons tree. As much as I don't like the weapons trees, I got to give it to him. The trap still closes. I can't fault him for that. That's awesome. You got me there. Now, this is where this figure really shines. He's got weapon and accessory storage all over his belts. From the lobsters, the dead turtles, to the shotgun. Speaking of the shotgun, it's really well done. I got to give it to him all day. You got silver amidst the brown and the orange, right? It's a very Leatherhead gun. You can cock the gun, the shotgun, right? It's like he's like, we're going to have a wedding here, right? That kind of thing. That's amazing. That's something that you need to do. I thought it did, and it did. I didn't do the backpack situation this time around, dag nabbit. And then you got the old lobster right here. We're going to have a little crawdad lobster, New Orleans style. Whatever. And then you've got a really dead turtle going on. Now, I will tell you this. The sculpting on these are really great. Don't get me wrong. But this is exactly what I meant in terms of if you're going to do these extra accessories, I really wish that they were painted. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to all these feathers or voodoo magic. Maybe he's hanging out with Mary Bones, you know, something like that, right? Something more in terms of color, but it does kind of offset it to have all these red parts. It kind of reminds me of the old Playmates. I get it. But look at this figure right here. That is amazing. They went to town on Leatherhead. This is my favorite figure out of the bunch. From his blonde eyebrows to his hat with the feather. You got the rope. I mean, he's the epitome of that 80s backwoods swamp kind of guy. You know what I mean? It's just, it's amazing. So he's got paint for days. They painted everything. You got shotgun shells for the shotgun. You got a little bag of whatever right there. Fishing hook, knife on his arm. Again, all the weapon, all the accessory storage, every which way. You've got an articulated tail, which does help him stand, right? I mean, you can situate him and really go to town. The legs, I can tell you finally on this one, he's not loose in the legs. The feet are great. He's got tattered jeans, nice paint on his big old cat work boots, whatever. I like the little patch on his knee. This figure really does have a lot going for it, and I, again, really like what they did here, and you can stand him upright. That was a big problem with the original Playmates. He was always down, right? And how do his jeans work? Who knows, right? This doesn't have to make any sense. But like I said, the legs along with the tail, if you wanted to get him in that original pose, put the tail down, his legs, he does situate nicely. It's a good balance effect between his tail and his massive head. It just works, and I totally dig that. I can safely say that, yeah, not too much is loose on this guy, and that's a great thing after looking at the other ones. He's got this big jaw right here. The teeth are painted. Now, I like the effect. It looks like it's slimy and wet inside his mouth, but I would have liked if they kind of painted the tongue just to give a little bit more character, but you got the uvula. Again, nice texture. The fact that his mouth opens, he's got kind of like front buck teeth. The arms will go out. They'll go all the way up. Spin at the elbow, single elbow. I take it back right here on the wrist. A little bit loose. Okay, so the feet are good. He's got a little bit of loose in the wrist. I can't win with this wave. But in looking at what's come before and what's come now, this is a solid update. This is taking everything that I thought with waves 1 through 4 and really emphasizing, going that extra mile and beefing them up full blown. Same thing with Ray Filet in the original one. Now, mine was more of that purpley red with the orange, and I know that the Ray Filet that they kind of recreated here was an alternate version, so it's nice to see both versions now kind of scaled together. And then you have Krang. No problems on the original Krang as far as legs. And again, it's a huge bummer, but I can't detract from the fact that Krang, other than the looseness of the legs, is quite a fantastic figure. I'll give it to him all day, But yeah, the fun kind of goes south. You get my drift at this point. And of course, Sewer Samurai Leonardo. It's fun to see the differences, the changes that were made. Different blue, like they've really brought the color out for this new version. And I'll tell you right now, when I was looking at the hands with the different braids around them, right, I thought there was a bug or something, right? Like General Trag status. And there was a scorpion on his hand. And Super 7 didn't do that with the new one, and I'm bummed about that. I want more scorpions on my Ultimate Turtles. The Playmates ones were wackadoo, man. But yeah, I mean, of course, that would have been nice to have an extra hand with that particular scorpion. Of course. Now, when you want to compare them to the other Super 7 turtles that have come before, you can see Sewer Samurai Leonardo is going to be a little bit taller because he's got some sandal action going on. So if you look at the original Leonardo, you get the idea. But you can, for the most part, swap the heads. It's a really tight fit. I would say heat it up if you're going to do it. But you could do it if you want. You know, I'm just saying, again, Donatello and Leatherhead. I love that this time around, Leatherhead this big, bulkier, massive gator figure, so he looks great when compared to the size of the Ninja Turtles. And same thing with Filet. He's just around their size, and that works. You know, I always thought that this was kind of like TMNT 3, right? When they go back in time and all that kind of stuff. That's what it really reminded me of. And of course, Krang himself, right? He matches up nicely, and if you have Shredder and the rest of the gang Playmate style, yeah, he'll go really great. As long as you keep him standing long enough, right? Yeah, and then all the different mutanimals that you could do technically so far. This is what I used to do as a kid. Now if they do Wingnut and Screw Loose, you got 2 extra ones. But of course, Playmates never did Jaguar or Dreadmon, so I'm curious to see how the NECA Toys versions come out. So in all honesty, it's a really solid lineup character-wise for Wave 5. They've really improved upon the paint. The paint overall is solid. No qualms whatsoever. They've improved upon the weapons. That's fantastic. The main hiccup, the big problem this time around, and kind of what we've seen before with prior waves, is that you have loose legs. Some figures looser than others, unfortunately, but that's going to be something to keep in mind when grabbing this new wave. So that is going to wrap it up for my look at the brand new Super 7 TMNT Ultimates Wave 5. And again, thank you to Super 7 for sending these over to give you guys this early fresh look. And you've heard my thoughts, and now I'm curious to know yours. Comment below, let me know. Let's talk everything Super 7. And I'm going to leave you guys with that. As always, drink some great coffee, eat some great food, but most importantly, remember, it's TMNT overload, baby. But I have to say, from Super 7 to NECA and everybody in between, if you're a Ninja Turtle fan, man, oh man, there's some great stuff happening here. And when we do, let me know what you found. I'll talk to you guys soon. Adios.